how realistic is it to, spur these companies into stop being woke? Because at the end of the day, a lot of these companies are adopting these ideologies. If you look at ESGs, for instance, they're a phenomenal way to make money, especially if you short them. So how realistic is it to actually try to push these companies to stop pursuing what they're pursuing politically? Because it hurts the consumer, of course, but it makes them money at the same time because this is helping them control different markets.
Well, that's a great question, and it depends on the company you're talking about. I think there's a number of companies, specifically the ones that we've attacked, who are simply gone woke because it was politically expedient. Take the case of American Airlines. Okay, this is Wall Street Journal has rated that airline the worst in the nation 2 years in a row. They were and they were second to last for like the 13 years prior to that. So it's just long trajectory of not doing a good job. They lose the most bags. They kick the most passengers off of flights involuntarily. And then because of COVID, well, I should take that back. Arguably because of COVID, they needed a multi-billion-dollar taxpayer-funded bailout in 2020, and then that same year they turned around and gave their CEO, their failing CEO Doug Parker, who they've since canned, an 8-figure, $10 million plus paycheck in the form of stock options. So they would rather talk about anything, right, rather than all of those failures. And I'll even just pile on since we have time to discuss it. I mentioned supposedly needed a bailout. When Doug Parker, 4 years prior to COVID, American Airlines had $5.5 billion in the bank. Okay, all of Doug Parker's compensation comes from stock options. In the 4 years lead up to COVID, he spent $5 billion of that doing stock buybacks to pump up the American Airlines stock price and therefore put more zeros on his own paycheck. So, but by the time they got to COVID, they had more money in the bank 5 years prior than the bailout they needed to keep operating. The only reason they needed a bailout is that Doug had drained the coffers in order to put money in his pocket. So I'll just add that as another reason he did not want a lot of people talking about the performance of the company. He'd much rather grandstand around Texas election legislation and try to distract. Coca-Cola and Nike both have serious issues, and this is according to Congress, with the use of forced labor to make their products in mainland China. In fact, at the same time that they were grandstanding, both those companies were grandstanding about the Georgia election integrity legislation, they were quietly lobbying to amend a bill that was moving through Congress that would prevent products made with forced labor from entering the U.S. market. They were trying to lobby to get their products accepted from that legislation because they knew that they couldn't qualify in those situations. So it sounds like they've got so many millions of dollars and these guys are so powerful, and these are very spineless, cynical people. And so when you come after them, you say, listen, it's not going to work. You can try to distract from your use of forced labor or using taxpayer bailouts to put zeros on your paycheck, but we're going to call you out. We're going to name and shame you. And so there's no reason to do it because it's going to end up worse for you by doing that. So I'm actually very optimistic about how much can be changed. And then I'll just get back to BlackRock a little bit. Since we started attacking him in October, he has been backpedaling about as fast as humanly possible. So Larry Fink sends out an annual, this is speaks to his insane hubris, but Larry Fink, an investment manager, sends an annual letter to CEOs, all CEOs, like all of corporate America, every year about what he wants to see them do. Basically, it's his just bloviation on, corporate America should do this and do that. Okay. If you go read the last 3 or 4, not this year's, but the prior, it's just progressive politics, climate change, everything. He spent the first third of this year's walking back a number of the things that he has said. In fact, he specifically stated, what we're doing isn't politics, it's not ideological, and it's not woke. He actually said that. So I think that suggests that they are very nervous about the attention that they are suddenly getting. And then on top of that, for the first time, they've started collecting little rent-a-Republicans like Dahlia Blass out of the SEC to head their government affairs department. And she's now she got caught writing a letter quietly on behalf of BlackRock to the state of Texas. They sent it to the legislators, local banks there, claiming that BlackRock is actually the best friend that oil and gas has ever had. and noting all of the oil and gas companies that they're invested in. And get this is like, this blows your mind, the hypocrisy. Number one on the list was they talked about how much Exxon stock they own. So they're literally taking the stock that they own and using it to destroy the company. And then when they get heat for that, they're saying, no, we don't hate oil and gas. Look how much Exxon stock we own. Yeah, they're using it to destroy the company.